Alfa Romeo have been very much in the news recently, and quite right too. The 156 is getting rave reviews. It's taken on the very best that BMW can offer and has sure given it a run for its money. Above that in the range, the 166, which has plenty of fans too. And if you've got loads of money and you only need 2 seats, then spend it on a GTV coupe or the very desirable Spider convertible equivalent. Now, with all that stuff going on, I guess a lot of people have forgotten about the baby of the range. Here it is, the 145. There's a booted version with a couple of extra doors too, the 146, essentially the same car. I think the 145 looks pretty indeed, and this one is the Cloverleaf, which means it's got the 2-litre engine, twin spark, too many spark plugs, and it goes like stink. That basically is what Cloverleaf means in Alfa speak. Are they right? Let's find out. Any car with sporting ambitions has got 2 key ingredients. A great engine, okay, full marks there, a tick in the box. This engine is fantastic. Needs to be revved fairly hard to get the best out of it. There's not a lot of torque if you don't rev the thing. But the suspension is the other key component. Now, suspension and ride is always going to be a compromise between how well it holds the road and how comfortable it is. And I think they've actually got the sums a little bit wrong. It's too soft, and that means that it just doesn't hold on quite as well as it might do round the corners, and doesn't actually feel like a sports car. It's too soft. It's almost too comfortable. Now, would you actually want to own one? What's for and against? Well, perhaps the big for is the fact that it is a great little package. It's an enjoyable car overall, and very, very capable. However, against it is towering depreciation, like virtually all Italian cars in this country suffer from. Also, the fuel economy isn't anything to write home about. It likes a drink, this vehicle. And the JD Power Reliability Survey put this car a rather sad 82nd. Now, everybody that was questioned praised its performance. The whole package, they said, was pretty right. But niggling electrical faults, minor paintwork blemishes and problems, all that kind of stuff that other manufacturers, notably the Germans and, fair play, the Brits, do seem to have sorted out now. The Italians apparently have still got some way to go on that. For my money, this is one very good-looking hatchback car. That grille is a kind of a miniaturized version of the approach of styling that you'll see on the bigger Alfa Romeos. And when we look under the bonnet, well, what do you expect to find? It's not exactly a Morris Minor in there, is it? Beautiful-looking Alfa Romeo twin-spark engine, writ large. That'll certainly impress the neighbours when you're checking the oil. And by the way, good access for all the things that you need to have access to, like checking the oil and the water, etc. As you move around the car, the big disappointment for me is these alloy wheels. Now, I really think they could have done better. It's like a sort of a 5-hole version of the old XR3i wheels from the days of our youth. This side treatment is nice with the swept up line here in the door, and these doors are huge. That's great for access. It does, however, mean that this B-pillar is a fair way back, and that means a big stretch over your shoulder to get the seat belt, but we have to compromise, I guess. These side windows, just the overall approach of that, I think, is interesting. These open, by the way, for a bit of extra ventilation. But it's when you come round to the back of this vehicle that I think the stylist really has earned his money. With that unusual and quite brave sort of V approach there, the spoiler on the top says, I mean business, so does the Boy Racer exhaust, and above all, so does the Cloverleaf badge in conjunction with the Alfa Romeo badge. This car says, I'm not playing around here. The interior is in many ways pretty much what you'd expect from a car with sporting pretensions. Lots of black and red piping on everything. The seating position is peculiar, it has to be said. I always figure with a sporty car you need to be well back from the wheel, legs nice and straight, but this seat doesn't lend itself to that. Although it cuddles you here nicely at the sides, there's a high front lip. Now what that means is that you have to be quite close to the pedals with your legs almost at a right angle here. Okay? That's fine, except that Alfa Romeo then very thoughtfully give you a little handle to pull at the side, which will take this seat even higher. Have I disappeared yet? Now, who on earth needs to be that high in a car? I certainly don't, that's for sure. Now, it does give a lot of extra legroom in the back if this seat is further forward, and maybe that is the point of the exercise. Rear legroom, by the way, is quite generous. This is what I don't like. Not enough bells and whistles on the dashboard. The radio is in completely the wrong position because it's very fiddly anyway, and it shouldn't be down there. It needs to be up here. But above all of this plastic just seems a little bit too cheap and cheerful for me. The switch gear is a little bit on the flimsy side, and it works today, but will it work next year? Who knows? But really, this ventilation system here, I think they need a good rethink on that one. So, the Alfa Romeo 145 2-litre cloverleaf, on-the-road price $16,742. Now that sets it up against the BMW 318 Ti Compact, which will cost you around 50 quid more, and for another 100 you can have the Audi A3 1.6 Sport. A little below it, 20 quid less, the Nissan Primera 2-litre SLX. Oh, and by the way, if you really want to spend serious money on an Alfa, how about the new Alfa GTV 6-speed 3-litre? A mere £30,000 and 65 pence. That 2-litre engine pumps out 155 brake horsepower, enough to take the cloverleaf from 0 to 60 in 7.8 seconds, which is pretty seriously quick. There's a price to pay though, the fuel consumption a mere 32.1 mpg. That's not terribly good, and the insurance is Group 14. Top speed, 131 miles per hour. If you really want an Alfa Romeo, my recommendation would be save up your money and get one of this car's bigger brothers. Because, in a sense, it's a victim of its own success at the moment, Alfa Romeo, and because of that, this car really doesn't match up to the rest of the range. Now that said, that doesn't mean it's a bad car. It isn't, it's a very good car. And to be honest with you, I have thoroughly enjoyed driving it. In fact, I think I'll do a bit more of that.